You are listening to Enjoy It While It Lasts. I'm your host, Herman Fouse. Today I have another life story interview for you, but this one's going to be a little bit different. I wasn't able to do this interview, so my sister and part-time co-host Trisha stepped in to do the interview for me. I couldn't do this one because I was busy being the subject of the interview. I put myself in the shoes of my guest and answered my own list of questions. So I guess I should introduce myself the same way that I would normally introduce another guest. Herman Fouse was raised by a single mother that struggled with poverty, childhood trauma, untreated mental health issues, and drug addiction, while also dealing with her two sons, one of which, me, had to complicate things by also having cystic fibrosis. I've struggled with my health, physically and mentally, and have had varying levels of success at different points in my life dealing with those things. I met my wife when I was 20, got married at 23, and rode her coattails in life ever since. I'm a father of three that's in my own head a lot, and I'm trying to do more good than I do harm. These life interviews are telling a person's story, but the story is still ongoing. So in a way, they are snapshots of a person at this moment. I'm going to use my host privilege with that in mind to add on to my snapshot at the end. When the interview is over, I'm going to address a couple of things that either need to be updated or that I wish I said in the interview. For now, I hope you enjoy getting to know me.
All right, welcome back. I think we're going to change things up just a little bit today. I know we want to do your interview that you've done with pretty much everybody else you had on the podcast for sure.
Yep, now time to me to switch roles in that.
Yeah, so bear with me, everybody. I know I'm not the crazy host y'all are used to, but we're gonna work on it as much as we can. So yeah, take me back. Do you have like one clear first memory?
I don't have like a one that I can say for sure is the first. I have a couple fuzzy memories. It's like around the same time period. Like I remember, I have a vague memory of like playing with little soft pellets, aerosol soft BBs inside the house with my cousin's boyfriend at the time. I have a vague memory of playing like Nintendo around the same age in that same house, and in the same set in the same time. It's all from this house where we lived in until I was about three and a half or so. That's why I'm not sure which one actually came first. And there was a candy lady that lived next door, and I remember going to her trunk and trunk of her car and buying candy. And the one that I remember the most, actually, I'm not sure if it's a reality or a dream. It was around the time after our dad left my mom, and I remember like sitting in the chair he used to sit in, and like crying and like pulling at the armrest.
Yeah.
And I did tear up those armrests back in the day, but I have a memory of me seeing his back walk as he's walking out the door, and me doing that. I'm guessing that's probably just a dream.
Yeah.
that I had that it reoccurred, or that's why it stuck in my head or something.
Or maybe like your imagination.
It might have been
a way to cope with it.
Yeah,
for sure. So tell me about a person that kind of brought you the comfort in those times, like an object or a comfort person.
Yeah, I never really had an object of comfort. I never had a blanket or anything like that. But like my grandma was the person that comforted me all the time. It's my mom's mom, and it's actually my mom's grandmother, because my biological grandmother died giving birth to my mom. So her grandmother adopted her and raised her. So I refer to my great grandmother as my grandmother because she raised us that way.
I never knew that.
Yeah. So she would always like try to I mean, she was just a very typical grandmother. Make you feel like, safe and warm around her. I remember we would. She used to play her on her record player, old Christmas songs, and we had like little bells that we would like jingle and dance around. Yeah, that's she was always and I was with her all the time, like whenever my mom would be working and everything. So
and she was around for most of your childhood, right?
she was around. We lived in her house for most of my childhood. For once we moved into her house, we stayed there for the rest of my childhood. And even before we moved in, yeah, she was the one that like she would take me to school sometimes whenever my mom couldn't, or like I said, I was always at her house if my mom was somewhere else. So
yeah, she was always backup.
Yeah,
for sure. So how did that mold your home life growing up?
So my home life, it was very chaotic. It comes in different stages too. So from the time I start remembering, around 3.5, 4 years old, I remember living in the house across the street from my grandmother, and I remember my mom being pregnant with Samuel. After that, like we had maybe about 1.5 years, 2 years of that, where it was just, I guess, normal.
Yeah.
But then at a certain point, my mom was dating a guy who was very into drugs, and she got into drugs herself, and maybe she got in first, and that's why I don't know which one came first, but either way, those both there. Sure. Yeah. And what was noticeable, obviously, the most obvious thing as a kid that was noticeable was whenever we had to move out of that house. Yeah. And we moved around a lot. Like we ended up staying in motel to motel, we'd stay at a trailer park for 3 months at a time, and then all of a sudden go to another place for so long. So it was being dragged around a lot. That's probably also why my grandmother, when I think back, look at her so fondly, just because that was the only real consistency I had.
Yeah, stability.
But yeah, like other than that, it's just like a lot of chaos, not knowing where I was gonna sleep that night. Sometimes not knowing if I was gonna have dinner that night. Sometimes, just like I think I've said it a couple times already, but yeah, it was very chaotic.
So just to paint the picture for everybody, so how old were you when you moved in with your grandma?
So I was around 7 or 8 when we moved in with her. Okay. It was after about 2.5 years or so of moving around, and that I remember my mom dropped me and my brother off at my grandma's house one time, and I didn't see her again or hear from her again for another week. She has later told us that the reason is that was her going to break up with her boyfriend. Yeah. I have no idea what happened during that week, even to this day. I just know that that was a time that I also was very unsure, because like I said, I didn't even hear from her. Right.
So you're like, I'm about to live with my grandma.
Yeah, is this what's happening? Yeah. And then when she did come back, we stayed there up until my grandma ended up getting diagnosed with dementia, and the house ended up getting sold. So that's a whole other thing that I will get to as we get there. Yeah. But then once we did get to my grandma's house, I would say that it obviously became much more stable, and my home life, I didn't always have the question of where am I going to be at anymore. It was pretty sure I was going to be there. Now, and we also didn't ever have days where we didn't eat over there. Now, we might have times where, okay, well, for dinner we're having macaroni and cheese and that's it. But there was something. Yeah. I also remember a big part of my childhood about my home life was the fact that how much I knew. Like, I was very aware, and it was shared with me exactly what our situation was, exactly what was happening. I remember going with my mom to different food banks or different places at Christmas time to try to get registered to get free gifts and stuff. Yeah. I remember always being stressed out about money, even though I have no like control over it.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I feel like that's probably one of the biggest stressors is to not have the control over it.
Yeah.
And just have like this kind of burden over you, and you can't do nothing about it. 1000%. I know you weren't very much a bad kid, but how were you disciplined? How were you like?
That was also that was inconsistent. So there was the main way would be just kind of getting yelled at and shamed probably.
Yeah.
But there would be times. What was the biggest inconsistency was whether not knowing whether something was allowed or not. Because I would do something and it'd be fine, and then the next time I did the same thing and I was getting yelled at and screamed and just not having any idea why I'm getting in trouble now. But I had also had times where I would be like I never got like beaten like some kids get beaten, but
right.
I would get like pushed or like kind of get a slap, something like that. So it would get physical, even if it never got like overly physical. But I would say it was because of the way it was definitely less effective and way worse than if I would have just gotten regular spankings.
For sure.
Because it would be just like a sudden,
smack.
you're shouting in my face, and I got pushed to the ground, and I didn't even know what was going on.
What are we shouting for again?
Yeah.
Can you say that one more time for me in the back?
So that would, and then as I got older, a little bit older, it was like same type of inconsistency with rules, but the things would be like whether or not I was allowed to go out and do things. Like, so whenever I was 12, 13 years old, yesterday, 2 weeks ago, I went out with my friend and stayed out till 3 a.m. No big deal. I'm trying to go out with my friend today, and we're just going to go out for an hour, and now I'm being told no. Like, why is this a deal? That would be the main. But overall, though, I would say it was. I wouldn't really call it discipline. That was maybe in her mind what was happening, but it was. In reality, there wasn't actually any discipline because there was no set rules I was being trained to follow. Yes, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. So, how do you think, because of those things, like as a kid, how do you think your relationship has changed over the years with your parents?
I'll start with my dad because that's an easy answer. It was very. It went from kind of as a kid. It's transformed the way it's transformed, let me say, is it started off, the typical, longing for hope your parents get back together one day, hope that, things can be quote unquote normal again.
Right.
To just kind of wanting to, like, getting kind of like, I guess, having a time period of being lonely or being angry about not getting picked up enough. And then it just shifts to once you get to like maybe 7 or 8, 9 years old. I don't know exactly how old, but at a certain point, mindset kind of shifts, and you're like, "Oh, I don't care." You like tell yourself, "I don't care," until you start to believe it and start to feel it. Mm-hmm. And that I stayed like that for a very long time, and even up until my adulthood. I would say at some point in my mid-20s maybe, Dad came whenever I was living in an apartment, and we talked. We had a couple times of talking, including me, like we had a really big conversation of me like telling him how I felt about everything, telling him all my bitterness and
for sure
some of the things I struggled with, and then me mad at him because I was like, well, where were you at whenever I was this age? You were supposed to help me not go through these things.
Yeah.
And he explained he didn't excuse himself, but he explained his reasons for it. And then since then like I said, that was like maybe mid-20s, so over a decade ago. And then since then we've kind of maintained we're never gonna be like super, super close, but
right.
we're way closer than I would have thought we would have gotten to where, we talk every now and then. We have
like
a
call me
I guess yeah, and I guess a distant but still having a regular relationship for now sure. as me as an adult.
More of a civil acquaintance type thing.
Now with my mom, it's a lot more complicated. I was always, I always felt like I was best friend and I guess therapist as well as a kid.
Yeah.
And it wasn't like I started to want to. I didn't really have any. I didn't think negatively like as far as her lifestyle or the way that things were. I just knew that I got anxious living in the same house, so I wanted to get out from the time I was like 16. As soon as I turned 18, I got an apartment. She was a manager at some apartments, and so she was able to give me the free one that she would have got. If that wasn't the case, though, I was gonna get out one way or another. Yeah. And since then, like, so things for a little while, we stayed really close, but just for a lot of my adult life, we had a closer relationship, but we were always fighting each other.
Yeah.
There was always some friction. A lot of it would be over my youngest brother, and our disagreements about how he was being raised. It changed again, I guess, as after we got our kids, and for when they were very little, when we first got them, we had a time period of trying to, I guess, try to get a little bit closer again.
Yeah.
But there have been several things over the years that I disagree with the way that she.
You think it kind of goes back to her parenting style?
Yeah,
how you were brought up versus how he was brought up, and now you're trying to kind of shield your kids a little bit from that.
There is some of that, like the kids have experienced
enough trauma,
enough of her, I guess. There has been a ton of things, but they've experienced some of her lying to them already, and having to know, like, okay, well, sometimes like I guess I'm not sure how how to explain that, but other than just saying, yeah, they've experienced different types of lies is how I say it. Like different, one being promises of the future, one being things about said in the past.
Yep.
Just different things where once they start noticing and experiencing it, then I had more of an issue with it. But more than that, the biggest change honestly was myself going through therapy and then going through trauma therapy and kind of just deciding that I didn't have to keep trying to force a relationship. I didn't have to keep I didn't owe it to anybody to make myself feel tense and literally have a backache just because I'm standing next to the person.
Well, at the end of the day, like you don't want to force a relationship because then it's not going to be genuine. You know what I mean? Those feelings aren't going to be genuine. They may be one-sided. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? So,
and then on that, but then also, it's just even if it wouldn't be fake, even if the relationship was genuine, like because I would be. It's not like I didn't act like I had issues, but also it became too much effort, too much work to. So at this point, we really don't have a relationship right now on a day-to-day basis. Like she still has came over to see the kids sometimes. But me and her don't really talk at the moment.
Okay. So, I've talked about the parents. What is the relationship? Let's go siblings-wise, I guess. How would you start that off? I know your closest one was with Samuel for sure. Because y'all kind of grew up together. Yeah,
I'll start there then, since he's the sibling I grew up with the closest. Growing up as kids, it was always I felt the huge responsibility to try to shield him as much as possible, and just to try to help take care of him as much as I could. I would help look out for him at school, help make sure that he was eating, help make sure that
kind of make sure he wasn't having.
He was doing whatever. Yeah, like I remember one time specifically where I just had him like playing board games so that he wouldn't notice the craziness that was going on behind us.
Yeah, for sure.
And as we got older, we were very typically close as like teenagers and everything. we stayed as adults. We just kind of started. I guess it was just like a slow drift, like a very normal slow drift of.
Yeah, just adulthood.
We stayed very close for a very long time, but then like it kept gradually getting more and more distance. And like you said, it wasn't anything major. It's just we're both living our lives.
Yeah.
Recently, for a while, we were reconnecting and trying to get closer again, like we used to be. And we still can have a lot of fun together, but I think also at where we are currently today it's still a little bit hard for me and him to continue to improve our relationship because of where me and my mom's relationship stands.
Right.
Is
he doesn't with your mom?
Yeah, no. He doesn't think that I handled things correctly, and it bothers him enough to where it's hard for him to just ignore it. And I also have my own issues with, I think that he would do things that he says he's going to do as far as I'm trying to think of a way to say it, but
just be more of his own person kind of thing.
Yeah, grow. I was trying to say it differently of just grow up, but just grow out, I guess, of feeling like needing to back her up on everything or just be with her. But I'm not doing a good job saying exactly my feelings with him right now. But there's a couple of things that make it difficult for us to be really close.
For sure. Well, and I mean, I just being devil's advocate, putting that point out there, like he's in a tough spot too.
Sure.
You know what I mean? Because he loves you both, and time goes on, time heals all. That's what they say. Then things come to light, and they make their own decisions. But I completely see that part of it too. Mm-hmm. It's always harder when you have a sibling staying with a parent, and then another sibling having the issues with that parent. We've kind of had to witness it both ways with Jesse as well. You know what I mean? And it's not for nothing.
Yeah,
it goes back and forth both ways.
So then I'll just stick with that side of my family for now. So then with Jalen, there is such a huge gap. My mom took him in as an infant when I was 16, and he became officially adopted. I don't even remember what the time period was, but at some point he was officially adopted. So with him though, I was basically a teen parent for a lot of years, for the first few years of his life, because I did a lot of the feedings, did a lot of the hands-on stuff with him, and then I was the one that took him to school his first day of the year. But then once I got married, he was still around us a lot. It wasn't until we moved to East Texas that became the real.
For Nacogdoches.
Yeah, once we did that, it became a lot more difficult for me because it became difficult for me when it comes to Jalen, just because, like I said, I was the one that took him to school all the time and everything, and now I'm 3 hours away.
Yeah.
So that's like when a relationship changed a little bit. And at that point, he was, I don't know, 8 or 9. So he had all of his little kid time basically with us being a certain way. Now, as he's gotten older, he's at an age where he's kind of he's 19 or 20 now. So he's kind of at an age where he's distances himself from not just me, but a lot of people. He isolates himself a little bit. Mm-hmm. And also he's got, whatever he's trying to make it as a musician. So, and he puts his time into that, but also as a 19, 20-year-old, whatever time he has, he's going to be doing it with whatever his friends are, or if there's his girlfriend at the time or whatever.
Yeah.
So
trying to be his own man kind of thing.
At this moment, my relationship with him is also just kind of in the wind, I guess. I'm not sure. So yeah, now I'll switch to the other side, to you guys. So I mentioned this whenever we did your life interview, but growing up, I didn't quite feel like I knew I had a brother and sister, but it didn't feel the same. Like I didn't know how to feel about it. You didn't know us for nothing. It felt weird because I felt like, there's this little girl and this even smaller boy that I kind of know who they are. Yeah, they're
who they are, but I don't know them.
Yeah. So, and it wasn't it was just kind of like I guess there's just kind of like a weird feeling of
For sure.
not really sure how to be.
Yeah.
You know, how to act around. And it wasn't up until very, very recently, a few years ago, that me and you like have started to reconnect. And then very recently to where we started to deepen that connection.
Yeah, I was talking about that yesterday with a coworker. He was like, "I didn't even know you had an older brother," and I was like, "Listen, man, that's a whole story in itself." I was like, "Yeah,
yeah." So I definitely think that I'm happiest with mine and your relationship because I do feel that we've grown to the point of being friends.
1,000." Yeah.
And I would not have, I guess I would have been iffy on whether or not that would have happened earlier in my life just because of how uncertain I felt about us.
Well, yeah, that's what I was saying. That's what I was going to jump in and say with the Jalen situation. I couldn't imagine me stopping at 21 and his 20, 21, 19, even 19 at his age and be like, let me go hang out with my older brother and like make this connection work. You know what I mean? You're so like, I'm not trying to call him selfish, but self-involved.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You're trying to find out who you are, what you're going to do, what this world is trying to like break you down of. You know what I mean? It's just, and I feel like every kid from like 18 to even 25 kind of goes through this thing of trying to figure out who they're going to be and what they want to do.
Yeah.
You know, and I want to say probably like a turning point, honestly, because I never saw it coming. When you showed up after I had my kid, I was just like, what the fuck? Like, you know, and I knew that you had all this other stuff going on. I knew that you were going through the adoption with your kiddos and stuff like that, you know. Or I think it was right before that, wasn't it?
Yeah, if it was...
kind of heard about it, but not...
Yeah, no, when Becca was born, we had just started, we hadn't even been certified to foster yet, but we were starting the process of doing that,
Yeah, I knew that y'all were kind of going through all that, and I think that... And I know that this sounds dumb to say that, but I think when you settle down, when you find either you have a kid or you kind of find your everyday rhythm, it's a lot easier to stop and be able to build these relationships with somebody who also has that. They have to also have that, not really stability, but that place in life that they are.
Yeah. Yeah, it's funny, like, because even that with Becca, though, is I wouldn't have thought that was necessarily a turning point for us, because then we probably went another 2 years with it before we saw each other again after that.
Yeah.
But so I didn't know you felt that way.
It was just like it was a big gesture that I definitely appreciated.
Mm-hmm.
That I'd never and I knew it was genuine because I didn't see it coming. You were just like, hey, I'm gonna come see your kid.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I just want to come see what's up, you know. And I definitely think there has to be an effort from somebody that's genuine. And it doesn't have to be an everyday thing, you know. I think people put too much pressure on having those relationships be everyday. But
yeah, and now with Jesse, I am the most distant from him, and it starts with what we said at the beginning of how the way we grew up with each other. But I guess I just haven't. Part of it is I haven't had the opportunity, and part of it is I haven't made the opportunity to have the same type of reconnection effort, I guess, that I've had with you. And to be honest, what you said right now, I would say at the end of what you said right now was very true, because a big part of it is, I can bring my kids over to play with Becca on her birthday. Or if it's Becca's birthday party, well, easy, come hang out. Or even if I don't have the kids, it's my niece's birthday party, I can go over there for that reason.
Well, it also has to do with Jesse living with Dad, too. Because that comes with it, you know?
Well, and even whether he lived with him or if he lived by himself, it would take a reason for me to go. Like, for example, like I mentioned it was your daughter's birthday party. Okay, well, I'm gonna go for that reason.
Yeah.
It would take something like that, and it would probably take a couple of things like that, to be honest, before things start just to kind of click and become more, I'm gonna go just because.
Yeah.
It's not something I think about like often, but when I do feel guilty about that when it comes to Jesse, because I like I said, part of it is just my own. I haven't made.
Well, I will say that Jesse don't feel that way at all. I can give you that closure. He he's kind of in the same boat where he's like, I know who he is. I know he's cool as shit. Like, he doesn't have any beef or anything like that, you know. And he's kind of the same way you are socially. Mm-hmm. Like, he's not like, I'm not just going to dip and go to Dallas and pop up on him. Yeah. You know what I mean? So I think that, honestly, in the future, especially as he's getting older and he's, you know, getting it together, that I think there will be moments like that, like a kid's birthday party. Mm-hmm. Like when he went out there with us to go do that. You know what I mean? Like, he's always down for stuff like that. So I don't have any reservation with that. I think y'all will be great. Let's go back, because I don't want to get too far off topic. How was school?
So academically, school was easy. I was always the run through the assignment, run through the work, help other kids with their work. Yeah. I was, you know, the stereotypical gifted kid.
Nerd. No.
Not for really it didn't take any effort to do things, and so I just thought life was always going to be easy.
For sure.
Now, socially, it was not a breeze. It wasn't like I didn't have time. I wasn't necessarily bullied or anything like that, but I did feel. I guess I felt like I never really had. Like I was never really part of any group. I never really felt like I had a friend that was like that's my real friend.
Yeah.
Through elementary school, I always kind of felt like that, like an outsider. It wasn't until the end of elementary school that I started to feel like I had any kind of people at all with the people that lived, with a couple of guys that lived on the same block as me. So it wasn't even through school, but it was a guy that lived down the street from me, and then one right next door, and then one across the street. But as far as in school, though, it wasn't until high school where I felt like I made any progress there. Because all through middle school, I mentioned how elementary school was. All through middle school, I didn't go to middle school a lot of the 2 years because I started off my first year in middle school. I was like sick in the hospital the first like month or so, mm-hmm. and then that made me very hesitant and pushing to not want to go to school. And then so I would skip or get my mom to let me stay home for this reason or that.
Yeah.
And it got so far behind so where I ended up getting like having to. It's not quite homeschool because it's not like my.
But like makeup, all that work.
Yeah, and it's like they had a teacher came out to my home. It wasn't like my mom did it, and then I still had to go to school and do the tests and everything.
Like a tutor kind of thing.
Yeah.
Sorry.
But in high school, I was on the basketball team, and that is what really actually helped me a lot because I made friends with other players, and but even that, it didn't, like I like talking. I'm very good with talking to people one-on-one. I'm very good with handling myself in a small group dynamic, but I'm not very good at the initial. I was gonna say at the initial of it, like the instigate. I don't usually gonna insert myself into a group. If I know a person in the group and there's a natural way for it to happen, okay. But I'm not the type of personality to
jump in.
So a lot of times, like once I ended up, when I dropped out of high school and went to Dallas Can, I spent a lot of my time just kind of sitting by myself, just trying to make it through the day.
Yeah.
And then when I'd go talk to the people that I knew from my personal life, but that was about it.
I'm gonna back you up here. I had no idea you dropped out. And I went to your graduation from Dallas, and like it's clicking now. Like, damn, that was a smaller graduation than usual. I remember us going, and I remember the graduation, and I remember being like, man, this isn't no typical. Maybe he graduated early, and like all these questions that I had that I didn't never ask.
And honestly, it ended up working out to where I graduated in the January ceremony.
You did,
because it was the So it was like the mid-year ceremony. I mean,
and I just assumed, oh yeah, he's fucking smart. Yeah. He graduated early. Like this makes so much sense. Okay, yeah, go bet. So take that into your social life now, growing up. How do you think that's evolved, or do you think you've kind of stuck to that same pattern?
I guess that's I wouldn't say the exact same. I would say though that I still feel like I can be awkward at times when it comes to be if I'm around if I'm at a party where I don't know everybody, things like that. But I don't feel the same way that I don't feel self-conscious like I used to about it. Just in talking to strangers as well. But I guess I still don't have this like a group.
Yeah.
Like I still don't have like this is my group of people that I go hang out with on Fridays. I still don't have. I would still say that if anything, I have like I have individual friendships, but
Right.
more than anything.
I will say that I hate that. I hate like big group ordeals. Not that I won't go to them.
Mm-hmm.
Like I just went to a bachelorette party last weekend. It was bomb. It was awesome. But I am definitely way better at one-on-one interminglings or conversations, or I just feel like the connection's better. It's more genuine. And every situation I've ever been in that had a lot of people in it, somebody was shady. Maybe not towards me.
Yeah.
But something always came out in the laundry that something was going on with somebody's husband or something like that. You know what I mean? And especially after COVID, I think it's hard to get a big group of people together and have them get along, period.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's going to take a while for society to get back to that.
I think for me, it wasn't for the long time. I kind of isolated myself because I focused only on with my health with my health as it got worse, which I know we're going to talk about before too long, and the stuff with the kids. We've already touched on the fact that I was going through foster to adopt. Mm-hmm. I pretty much just got so wrapped up in my own household to where I had maybe a 5-6 year period where I stopped trying to hang out with people even.
For sure.
And it wasn't until maybe a couple years ago where I started to try to
branch out,
go back out into the world again.
Yeah, for sure. So how was your dating life? Think before the kids, think before the wife.
Yeah. So I've always gotten along easier with girls than with boys. And I've always been more, I guess, attracted to hanging out with girls more than boys.
Yeah.
And it wasn't always because I was always trying to get with every single girl. But I was also always trying to get with every girl I could.
I think every dude does. I think that still holds true. From the time y'all turned 16 to the time y'all.
It was a lot. It was earlier than that for me. But my first serious long-term girlfriend was probably as a freshman when I was actually probably a sophomore in high school, where I dated her for a couple of years. I would say before that I didn't feel like I had before her. I didn't have. Obviously, I didn't have a ton of experience because I said she was my first major girlfriend. But even just with girls casually, I had a ton of flirting experience. I was a huge flirt, and
you couldn't close.
Well, I didn't necessarily
Yeah.
I would always just try to, because I would be openly flirting with 4 girls all next to each other. So it's not like I'm trying to
putting out player vibes.
Basically, that's what I was trying to put off. But a lot of that was, if I'm being honest, a big part of that was my own insecurity and feeling like I needed to overcompensate because I didn't feel like I felt like I was the little geeky kid that.
Yeah, you were like, I need to come out.
I need
to
to
be this person.
Yeah.
Okay.
I was just trying to put off a certain vibe, but then that wasn't quite matching who I was. So that's probably why I didn't keep trying to target someone and try to go for to dating.
Gotcha. So did you date any I know you said you had kind of a girlfriend in high school that you dated for a few years. After that, did you have any decent dating experience before you met the love of your life?
I had a couple of other girls who I would call my girlfriend at the time, but none lasted. It was just a couple months at a time.
Yeah.
No other serious girlfriend I had until I ended up getting with Brenda. And and it wasn't that like when I first met Brenda, I was only 20, so it's not like I had a ton of life.
Right. Experience.
Yeah.
Sure. What role does religion play in your life? A little bit of a jump there. What do you?
Like I said,
go from girls to religion.
Hey, like I said, like I told you, you don't have to follow it. That's more of a guideline thing. So, I grew up being raised as a Christian. One thing, my mom would read the Bible to us, and her boyfriend that she was with those times when we were in our chaotic times, he read the Bible a lot, and he would talk to us about the Bible. So I learned biblical stories like that.
Gotcha.
Then when we moved in with my grandma, we started going to church, and I kind of got a feel for what that's like. And we stayed going to church for a few years until eventually just fell off and kind of never went again. But it was always like, I always felt like I was a Christian, and all through my childhood and teenage years. It wasn't until maybe I feel like it was my first or second semester in college where, and the thing about it was in history where we're learning about a native tribe, and I don't remember what tribe, and I just remember learning like that they had thought that somebody that had, I don't think it wasn't like when Columbus came, but they had thought that somebody on a ship was like a reincarnation of God.
Right.
And I just remember like as they were talking about it being talked about from the professor as kind of like a, can you believe they thought this type
like
thing?
Deception thing, yeah.
And then like in my head I was like, well, I mean, their story doesn't sound that different than Christianity. And then I just started going from there. My very first questioning was actually I take it back. My first questioning was before that was, I talked to a couple of preachers and I remember writing a letter back and forth with a priest, because it always bothered me to say that Jesus was the only way to heaven, to be saved. Because I was like, well, you're telling me just because this person was born to the wrong family that grew up believing Jewish or Muslim beliefs, that
right, somebody who's never heard of Jesus,
and they've lived their whole, well, even if they've heard of him, but they were raised to believe this way, and
so they're gonna go to hell.
Yeah, I was like, you're telling me that they live their whole life and they actually, let's say they're a good person according to their religion. Or but, even
our religion. Just didn't believe that one thing.
But they just didn't believe that Jesus was, so that person, nope, you're fucked. That was the first. That was the thing that I kept trying, because I still wanted to be a Christian at that point. So I kept trying to find an answer, find a way to make it work in my brain. Yeah. And then once I was already having those kind of questions first, and then once I got into the breaking down the idea of why is this religion silly when this religion's not. Yeah. And then I start comparing all of it. Then it just kind of, the whole house of cards fell for me. Right. And I stopped. That makes a lot of sense.
So we talked about basketball in school. What are some other hobbies that you had as a kid, and even now, what kind of hobbies you got going
on? So I was a big, growing up, I played video games a lot. All the basic games that people always play, so all the Mario games,
you got your sleeve on.
All the Mario games, all the like I've played Mortal Kombat games growing up, stuff like that. Sonic, and probably up until I was in high school, I played, like I think the last game I played really big was Madden. Mm-hmm. But then since then I've just kind of, I'm not big into games anymore. It's just kind of time for, every now and then I'll still play, like the last games I've played like heavily was the Arkham series, so it's been several years even now.
It's been a minute.
I've always really been into sports. The thing that is still consistent is being a fan of sports. So I'll still watch football every Sunday. I'll still watch the Rangers if I got nothing else to do. The thing is now though, it's just that time. As you get an adult, you have less time for your hobby. So
you have less time for yourself in general.
So I don't. I don't watch as much, but I still keep up with sports a lot. And then other than that, like as far as reading would be my other hobby that I had let go for a while that I've gotten back into again.
Cool. What you reading?
Right now I'm in the middle of reading the Stormlight Archive. It's a series from author Brandon Sanderson, I think is his name. He's a very popular fantasy writer.
Fantasy, okay.
Yeah. I'm in the third out of the fourth books, but then I've also recently went back and reread Wicked and the sequel, and I'm about to read the third book of that series. So.
All right. So what did you want to be growing up?
Growing up, I wanted to. I always wanted to be a writer. I always wanted to write novels.
I remember you telling me this about your English teacher giving you that kind of like that you were good. Like,
I got it once. Whenever I first started writing stories, like in the fourth grade, that we talked about, you get to learn how to write, how to actually write in about the fourth grade. I enjoyed it a lot. I enjoyed creating stories, and so I always wanted to do that. That transformed a little bit as I got into college. I was trying to think of what career path to take, and so I wanted to get into. When I first started going to school, I wanted to get into journalism, to be a sports writer, and then I felt, but I did. What stopped me from pursuing that is like right around, like I was seeing, well, newspapers are dying, and so at the time, I'm thinking that this whole career is going to die.
Right, you're going to
not
get in
realizing
there,
that I could have. Maybe I could have had my own blog. That now you don't have to be employed by a newspaper to be a writer.
Yeah.
But I did not have that foresight to keep going with that. At that point, I wasn't really sure what I wanted to do. Whenever I was about time to graduate, so I kind of just like panicked and went into education just because I wasn't sure what else to do.
Well, education got a lot of writing.
Well, I mean, yeah, but that's not what I was.
I know that's not what you were going for, but.
So that's what I did. I was in education for a while working, and I was going to be a teacher, and then I stayed in that field. Before that, I was like in retail or restaurant jobs, but I stayed in education until I quit working because of the kids.
Yeah. So do you think now, what would you consider now, if you had, I know you know, I'm not saying tell me where you're going to be in 5 years or nothing like that, but if you had to hone in on a career path right now, what do you think you'd be?
Well, hopefully this turns into money, but if not, this is always just a hobby and not money. I mean, I'm taking classes to try to be a voice actor.
Okay.
I want to. I think what I wish I would have told myself when I was younger is that if you go into a creative field, like I remember whenever I used to think about being a writer, I used to think that if I don't become like a best-selling author, then I'm gonna become a high school teacher.
Right.
And it was like an all or nothing type thing.
Yeah, way one way or the other.
I really wish that I would have realized, or I could go back and tell myself that, you know, if it's writing, you just have to sell a certain amount of books to make a living. If it's people paying for your podcast, you don't need to be the highest listened to podcast.
Right. We don't need to be Joe Rogan.
You just need to have a certain amount to make a living.
Right.
Saying that to say now that I really want to make a career at the second half of my life is in a creative field.
I like it. I think that's awesome. So
if there's
the next thing,
depending on where you're which I don't know what the next question is, but it's a
big one.
Okay, I was gonna say depending on if you want to go to that one or if you wanted to go back. Like I know I started to tell a story about my grandma's house, but then
okay. Well, go ahead with the grandma's house real quick.
All right. So yeah, I should have just finished the story at the moment instead of saying we'll come back to it later.
Yeah.
But so what happened with my grandma was once she got she was starting to get. We knew she was starting to get something was wrong with her because there would be times. Like the time where we knew for sure that something was going on was there was a time where I was in the hospital, and our neighbors called us because she was like going to neighbors' houses in the middle of the night, knocking and looking for me and my mom. And
her normal had been thrown off.
Yeah, so like she is obviously she at the time knew we were at the hospital, so it was like, okay, well, something clearly. A little bit later after that was whenever she did get diagnosed with dementia. What happened next though was it really set us back for a while, because part of us moving in with my grandma, it definitely. I mentioned it helped us get out of chaos.
Yeah.
But as we stayed there, a big part of us staying there, was my mom under the assumption that she's going to continue to live with her, take care of her.
Right.
And eventually, as she passes, we'll just stay the house. We'll stay there. One of my uncles, though, one of her brothers, after the diagnosis, took my grandma and got her to sign over power of attorney to him.
Piece of shit.
And he did that and very quickly sold the house, and so we were just put out. And he put my grandmother into a home, and
you literally couldn't do anything.
There was nothing we could do about it. And also, like, my grandma was already, she was going downhill,
right.
But she completely, like, about a month into being there, she's like lost her mind almost all the way.
Yeah.
Like she had, whenever she came over to our apartment that we ended up moving into, and again, it was like a month and a half or so since I had seen her last.
Not very long at all.
Like, she was fully on into needing diapers and going, like, not even trying to use the restroom. She was fully on into hardly able to feeding herself. And 6 weeks before that, it's not like she was having she was having misunderstandings, and she was having messes in memory.
Fully functioning.
But she was taking care of herself.
You're right. She was taking care of herself and you sometimes.
But it just completely dropped, like, once she got moved out. And then that put us in the scramble too of like, oh, well, shit, we didn't really have we had like a month heads up of, oh, we got to move out now. Yeah. I think less. So that was a whole nother.
It's something about taking away, and I know that this is insane and it sounds weird, but it happens a lot with women when they have dementia or they have cancer or they have something that is kind of a coin toss on whether it's going to be very quick or very long term. Something about taking away their care factor. Mm-hmm. I know that sounds weird, but like, we thrive on being able to take care of something. Whether not us, we don't give a shit about ourselves.
Yeah.
It's something about like having a kid to take care of her, having someone to look after. It's something that we know we have to remember. It kind of keeps us centered.
Even something as simple as she was taking care of her house. Like she had a rose garden that she was
she had something to do every day that she
and
knew
it was
she had to
also
do.
Familiar settings to where
exactly
even it helps you out on your. If you're having a bad day, well, you at least don't feel like you're lost. It helps you
recenter yourself. Yeah, that's what I was saying about her throwing off her everyday thing.
Yeah.
And then you take her away from something that she's known her whole life, for a very long time, and put her in a whole different situation with nobody around who gives a shit or anything.
Yeah.
Just even for it happens very quickly, and we noticed that a lot with my grandfather as well. He did the kind of the same thing.
Yeah, and I really wanted to make sure. The reason I wanted to make sure that I went back to tell that is just because I think that is just another emphasis of every single point of stability I had got taken away at some point in my childhood.
Yeah,
like
sure.
Every time I thought I had something stable, I didn't. Yeah.
Well, the next question was going to be about your health, asking if you have any kind of health issues going on now or before.
Okay, yeah. So then, so I was diagnosed with cystic fibrosis at birth, and which means that the way I was diagnosed is because I had a hardened stool, and they had to take out part of my intestines, which apparently is somewhat common for babies born with CF. Mm-hmm. And what cystic fibrosis does, for anybody that doesn't know, I do talk about this in full detail, or in more detail, on an episode of my living with CF. But for a quicker version of it here, it mainly affects my lungs, but what it does is that it makes all mucus in my body very thick, which which is why it mainly affects my lungs, is because our lungs are covered in mucus. It's much more easier for me to get a infection because of that, for bacteria to grow in my lungs and for me to get a bacterial infection. It also has affected it always has affected my kidneys, and I have to take enzymes when I eat that my body does not produce naturally, that a normal person's body does. I have a whole bunch of breathing treatments I have to take, a whole bunch of vitamins I have to take. It also has led to me being diagnosed with osteoporosis. So for that one, I've had to take a daily shot for a couple of years, and then to help regain my bone density. Mm-hmm. And I've had to do a couple of IV reclass to lock in the bone density I have. With the CF, I've been in and out the hospital all my life, usually a couple times a year. It got to the point it was in the year 2020 that my lung function was dropping. It had gotten down, well, once my lung function dropped down to about 25% as the normal, I started the process of getting checked out for a lung transplant. Mm-hmm. I ended up being approved for that, but it was like, I mean, they the rest of my body was okay. It could handle the surgery, but they try to hold off as long as possible, because once they do give you a new organ, your body's going to eventually reject it. So I was listed as like too healthy to need it yet.
Right.
In the year 2020, I kept getting dropped. I dropped down to the point of my lung function dropping into the teens, and there was the whole thing that with COVID happening during the same time, yeah, a lot of people that had lung transplants died that year. If you get a transplant, you take immunosuppressants, right, and you're much more susceptible to any infection at that point. Yeah. That made the center that I was going to be a lot less willing to take on risky cases, because they were already having extra deaths, and they didn't want to drop below a certain percentage of how long people would expected to live after there. Right. So then at that point, they told me they would not give me a transplant. So I ended up, in a scramble, because at that I was getting to the point where, I need it now, and now you're telling me I can't have it. I can't have it
when I actually need it.
Eventually, I got a reference to Duke in North Carolina, and I was going to go see them. My lung function dropped down to 15%. Excuse me, 16%, because they told me that 15 was the lowest they've had of somebody still. Like, I was like, what is the lowest you can live with? Yeah. And they said that they've seen a 15 from some people that are in hospice before. So it was, at that point, I was looking at it like I was probably about to die. Yeah. Fortunately, they did find the right combination of medications to where by the time I got to Duke, my function had rebounded up to 21%. And so then they were like, okay, yes, we can, but
we can't.
since you
since you got better.
Well, they were like, it was more of like, let's, if you were here a month ago, we would have done it right away.
Right.
Since you are at this point now, let's just wait and see. And then since as waiting to see, and then I ended up being part of a medical study that where I got a different type of treatment that has also helped me continue to get better. So at this point, my lung function is back up to like around 30%. Woo-woo. And I've been stable for a few years now. Good. obviously 30%, it's still limiting. I still can't do a lot of physical activity, but compared to what I was, I feel basically normal. But yeah, that's what I've dealt with that my whole life. Like just the different aspects of that, how it affects
other parts of your body.
yeah, or just and other aspects of your life too. Just if all of a sudden, if every year you're gonna have, 3 weeks where you're in the hospital and then another 3 weeks on IV medications.
Yeah,
It's gonna be hard to work work different jobs for. Like I've had to take extra time off from different jobs, or I've had when I worked at a school, I've had to like give myself IVs medications in the
classroom with the kids and stuff.
Yeah, exactly. So that's unfortunately probably the most defining like trait of my life.
Yeah, especially for your childhood. What kind of vices did you struggle with? Was it because of that, or was it just your own journey you went through?
Oh man, I guess my vice might just be with just excess in general, not being able to moderate. But I mean, I've been allowed to drink since like around the age of 12, and given pain pills around that same time as well. So it's that plus of my own natural tendencies. I've kind of always having a craving for some type of buzz.
Right.
I was very unhealthy with alcohol for a very long time. Would just be not just excessive with the amount, but just excessive with the frequency as well.
Yeah.
And then for a while, when I started smoking, and that's like when I started smoking weed at 18, I smoked for about a 6-month time period. And in that 6-month time period, I'd probably do it a couple of times on the weekends.
Yeah.
And I, like in that 6 months, like my lung function dropped from it was at a 70% at the start to 50, it was at 50% 6 months later.
Jesus.
And
I didn't know you actually ever smoked it.
that basically also made it to, in that time period, like I stopped being able to play basketball. Like actually being able to play running.
Right.
That is like, that's my biggest regret in life, just because of like, if I didn't have that time period, how much better would I be today or in all throughout from then to now?
Yeah.
But I did it. And so and then that's what happened to me. After that, I've had other time periods where even just eating edibles has become a vice because I would take it too much. I would go either like have to be too high all the time, as opposed to just using it what I would consider as a healthy moderation.
Yeah.
So I guess those would be the main the ways that the things that I've done, but also just like I mentioned about when trying to get with every girl for a time period. I think even that, like just wanting the constant attention of people, that kind of transformed into wanting attention in other ways for a while, to where I think that I would be fine like if somebody was being obnoxious and making some, like if they were just because if they were laughing, I was like, okay, I'm making people laugh,
right,
whether or not they were laughing at
you or with you.
Yeah,
was the different story. Yeah.
So that also, I can't separate that completely from alcohol though as well, because alcohol probably had a big part of me acting those ways.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So how do you think that's molded your philosophy as a parent growing up?
I think that a lot of my experiences, the way that it's affected my parenting, is knowing how it affected me, and thinking about how things have affected me, and then not knowing what I don't want to expose my kids to.
Right.
Also, the thing, like certain, like I was never put into like any organized activities, and so that's something that
You strive to
I
let
basically,
them do
yeah, like
anything?
I try to make them like right. I try to make sure they've all been in the different, at least one sporting team. They've all been into at least one non-sporting activity that they've done
Yeah.
for a time period. They've another one, like I basically just try to give them everything I didn't get. Like one a big thing for we do sit down breakfast every morning, because I remember my mornings being super rushed and
Right.
getting to school and maybe hungry at school, or maybe just
Make
just
sure
kind
they
of feeling
start-
like everything's just crazy right from the start. But like being able to have them come and get yourself dressed and come sit down, and we'll just talk for a little bit and just
That
start our day.
stability. Yeah.
Overall, though, I think my philosophy as a parent is I don't look at the kids that I try not to look at the kids as they are in front of me. I try to look at them and see the adult that they're going to be.
Right.
And I try to make my decisions based on that. Because I would say, and if I compare that to, like, say, the way I was raised, I think even when there were good intentions, I think the good intentions was how to make this person feel better right now, how to make me as a kid feel better right now, as opposed to ever instilling something
The
long term in
lesson,
me.
or
Yeah.
like the roles the things you actually need to make it as an adult.
Yeah.
Sure. So, and I think this is a unfair question to ask, but I'm gonna ask it anyway. What's your relationship like with your kids currently?
Why do you think that's unfair, though?
Because I feel like if you would have asked our parents while we were kids what their relationships like, they would be like, "Oh my God, I love my kids and our relationship is so great," like. And I feel like in a way, you don't necessarily know what your relationship with your kids is going to be till after they're grown and they can explain it and tell you.
Sure. I think I will.
As of now.
No, when I wrote that. I think I put that question on there. What made me put that question on there is one of the first people I interviewed had older kids.
Yeah.
And then I just kind of liked it. I was like, oh, I can keep this on for. But to your point, though, I don't know. I don't think that I think that is one thing to say that everybody's of course going to say they love their kids, but I don't think that at any point our dad would have described his relationship with me as close.
That's
like
true.
he would, so that, there's some type, there's at least levels to it.
On that aspect, you know what I mean? I don't
Yeah.
think there are some people who probably would say that when it was completely not true.
Yeah, I would say that I have different. So, I have a very playful relationship with my kids. They also, well, I'm also the only person that, especially for my daughters, I'm the only person that they will listen to, like, with any kind of consent. It's not like that they were great listening to me either, but they at least listen to me more than they'll listen to other people.
Yeah.
But still, like, if you ask, I believe if you ask my kids to tell you something about me, it would have to do something with me, the way I play or the way I joke. I think that's what they would say about
Good.
me. I try to talk shit to them a lot. I try to.
Yeah, I don't think kids would survive you if they didn't have a sense of sarcasm or what it was.
Yeah, like I think you're right, because you wouldn't be able to, because I'm forcing that to be inside of you.
Right. You're gonna have what this is. Yeah.
But also, I think that they have a trusting relationship with me, that they know that I'm the answerer of questions. So
Yeah.
If whether it's something big like, well, where do the first people come from? How did, what is life? Where's God? What happens when we die? What is God? Things like that they'll come to me to talk about, or just facts about, like, oh, what's the smartest bug in the world? What's the
Smartest bug in the world.
like they always come to me with all their, like, if it's any type of life question, like if they ever ask Brenda, she'll just say, go ask that.
I love it. We
So
know our
that,
roles.
I think that would be the best way I would describe our relationship.
What's different about you now with the kids, with your life now, that you would say was different from you in the past?
The number one difference that is fairly newest in me is the level of confidence I have in myself, that is actually genuine confidence, and not just
not this facade. You're putting out into the world.
Yeah. I kind of had both extremes, where I was I was gonna say unconfident, but I lacked confidence for a long time. Younger, I mentioned feeling like the outcast. I always felt like the loser.
Yeah.
Then I switched that to try to I tried too hard to put off the other side of it. Like I very much acted like I was.
Instead
I don't
of
care
you
about
trying to be this like Playboy show star. Now you're actually comfortable with yourself to be who you actually are.
Yeah, because I went for a while. I felt like I gave off a confident aura, but it was. I think what you said. It was a completely different persona.
Yeah.
It's like I had to play a role basically.
Yeah.
Whereas
exactly.
now, like I think your rephrasing of it is the best way to say it. I feel just confident just in being me.
What did they say? The saying goes something like, everybody in all of school as they grow older tries to fit in and tries to be a part of this normal.
Mm-hmm.
And then as soon as you leave school, it seems like, oh my God. Sorry, guys. It seems like overnight you switch and everybody wants to be their own person.
Yeah.
Immediately. You know? So what do you enjoy in life right now?
I get my enjoyment from stories. Any medium. I love. I grew up reading. I loved reading novels. Whether it be that or graphic novels, comics. I love watching movies, TV shows, live action, anime, whatever. I just love stories. Yeah. I get enjoyment from taking in stories.
What are your goals for your life moving forward?
One goal would be to try to turn this podcast into a career, into a job. Or like I said, another goal moving forward is to try to get work in voice acting. Besides that would be like the two, trying to make a living in a creative field. I guess it would be that goal. But besides that, like my other goals are, I'm still trying to work myself into making it a habit of taking care of myself. Where by that I mean the basics of eating correctly, drinking water, getting enough sleep, getting exercise, all the things that you really should do to take care of yourself. My goal would be to make that habitual, so where it doesn't take so much mental effort to do it because I just do it.
Yeah.
And then lastly, I think my goal, a big goal for me that I've been working on is trying to increase the amount of person-to-person connections I have. Whether it goes along with, I talked about how our relationship has gotten closer, but I've tried to reconnect with a couple of friends or getting closer to a friend I have. Try to be able to put myself out there in situations more where I would at least have a chance of meeting new people.
I love it. Okay. So take away the job stuff, take away the kid stuff, take away all the stuff that you feel that you may be obligated to do. What's something that makes you happy? Something that, like, I know you went over your hobbies and stuff like that. What do you look forward to in your life?
What I'm looking forward to is one thing I'm looking forward to is finishing the series. I'm really enjoying the series I'm reading. I also am looking forward to. I don't know that I can answer this question by taking away everything like that because it's.
Yeah, I think last time that was probably the hardest question you asked me to.
See, to be fair, when I asked, I tell you to take away everything from things you enjoy. I want you to get what do you get your enjoyment from the world from?
Yeah.
But as far as what I'm looking forward to, I have the regular things about like looking forward to how my life is going to unfold, but I don't have any specifics in that area.
For sure.
The only specifics I have of things that I'm actually know that that's going to happen to look forward to would be simple things like my kids are watching Attack on Titan, so I'm waiting to see how I'm looking forward to their reactions as they continue to go through it. I'm looking forward to the movie Demon Slayer, the Demon Slayer movie coming out.
I didn't know that was coming out. What?
Yeah. So really, anything that is concrete that I'm looking for, it has to do with something like that I know that I'm getting an ending to stories that I've been. Again, it's all story based, so
Yeah.
I'm seeing the ending of different stories.
All right. Well,
If I had to say that, if I have to pick something that like, if whenever I die, whenever I die, it's gonna drive me crazy the fact that I'm gonna inevitably be in the middle of something
that's
that
true.
I'm not gonna get to finish
because you keep jumping.
Yeah.
You keep jumping into a new thing as soon as you finish one. So
Yeah.
eventually you're not gonna know the ending of something.
So,
you can ask when you get wherever you're going.
Hey, I always hope, like, if for me, my version of heaven would be, if I die, to be able to have basically unlimited access to information and to know everything.
Just gonna wake up in this big ass library one day and you just like snap your fingers and whatever you were thinking about shows up. That is so cool.
That would be the only way for me to not feel incomplete, because I just feel incomplete because there's so much I don't know.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Well, thank you so much for letting me interview you. I appreciate it.
I see the benefits and the flaws from my list of questions being on this side of it.
Yeah, but I think you handled it really well. Maybe because you had some practice, but I think you handled it really well.
All right, we are back to publishing day me, and I'm here with the couple of add-ons that I promised at the beginning. The first thing I want to touch on is my brother Samuel's and my relationship. Because it's improved a ton since the time I recorded this. We do get along and are a lot closer to the way that we were with each other as teens and young men. And the reason I wanted to make sure that I say this first is because it's probably been it's been the biggest change since the time of recording. But also we've been close most of the time in our lives. I mean, sure, just like any adult siblings, we've had times of seeing each other more or less. But at the time of the interview, it just happened to be a hard time, I guess, in our relationship. So I wanted to make sure I capture that snapshot, current day as well. Also, when I listened back, I realized that I think I was expecting Trisha to ask me about my relationship with my wife and how it developed, because of the wording of her question before that. She had asked me to tell her about my dating life before I met Brenda. So I think that I was thinking the plan was, okay, I said that, and then follow up. Now tell me about how you met your wife, or tell me about how that developed, how that came about. But once it changed course, and she ended up asking me something different, what I should have done, I should have stopped down right away to make sure that I finished the train of thought that we were on. But since we didn't, I definitely want to make sure that I included this here, because I realized that I didn't get to tell at all about my relationship with my wife. So Brenda and I met on Facebook because we're old. But for the first few years, we told everyone that we met at Keys Park. That is where we met first in person, but also it was because it wasn't as normal back in the day to say that you met online, and we didn't want to be considered losers, you know. We had a couple of dates really quickly, and after knowing each other for just a couple of weeks, we were basically always either at my apartment or her parents' house. I ended up spending the night over there a lot of the times. In fact, the first time I met my father-in-law was at 5 a.m. one morning when he was in the living room getting ready for work. But I had to leave to go to my apartment to get changed because I also had to go to work. I don't think we said a word to each other. Maybe I said hello when on the way out the door, but I don't even remember saying that. Brenda ended up moving in to my apartment a few months into our relationship. And about a year later, we moved back into her parents' house. We got married after being together for 3 years. and have joked about, threatened, and fantasized about divorce ever since. We've made a life together. We have our own little world. We've grown up together. We were basically babies when we got married, so we've helped raise one another. We love each other, and sometimes we even like each other. One more thing I wanted to say about the interview after listening back to it. I said archive weird. I don't know why I said it like that. Whenever I said I was reading the Stormlight, I said I was reading the Stormlight Archive. What a dummy. Anyway, remember, you only got one life to live. You might as well enjoy it while it lasts.